Thanksgiving weekend. I know I was excited for Monday and being ready to tackle the week and excited to share my message with you this morning. And I'm curious if anyone was like me and grew up watching Steve Kerr play in the NBA. He has won 5 championships as a player, 3 with the Bulls and 2 with the Spurs. And now, as an NBA coach, he has won 4 more titles as the head coach of the Golden State Warriors. Now, what inspires me most about Steve Kerr isn't the number of rings that he has accumulated over the years. It's actually how he became a head coach in the NBA. And back in 2014, he had 2 offers on the table. One with the New York Knicks, a high profile, high prestige opportunity, way more history of winning, way more money and prestige around that opportunity. And then the other was the Golden State Warriors, a team that hadn't won a title in literally decades, right? And most people thought that the Knicks was like the obvious choice for him to choose. But in fact, he chose the Warriors. And why do you think that is? Why wouldn't he have chosen the Knicks? Way more money, way more prestige, right? Living in New York. Why do you think that is? And it's interesting for him to share that it was such a simple choice for him because the culture and the ownership at Golden State aligned with his core values. It was such an easy decision for him. Um, and I found that so interesting because everyone always thinks it's about money. And that just wasn't the case for Steve Kerr. In fact, before he ever even picked a starting lineup or ran his first practice, he did something that so many people just never do. And what he did was he sat down with great leaders, great coaches, and even other sports. For example, he sat down with Pete Carroll, head coach of, at the time, the Seahawks, and asked, what does it really mean to coach? And I think about that because often when our clients come to us, they always ask us first, like, can you train my team? Can you build my systems? Help me grow revenue. Rarely do they come to us and ask, like, how do I become the CEO my business needs? How do I lead a culture that people never want to leave in an industry that cries regularly around injectors leaving and stealing their business, right? And so, what you stand for, your leadership, your culture, that's where the magic is. And Pete Carroll told Steve Kerr, right, that it's not about the offense that you run, right? That stuff doesn't even matter. He said, what matters is what do you believe in? What do you mean the offense doesn't matter, right? Pete Carroll said, it's what you believe in. What do you stand for? He said, that is what really matters the most. That's what is going to get you the championships. That is what is going to get your players to show up when you need them to. And that hit me because, the same is true for you, right? For me. Yes, at Diamond, we help clients fix their broke systems. We help clean up their EMRs, we implement KPIs, we train their team, we optimize their marketing, we do all the things, right? We do all the systems. But, let's be crystal clear, let's be honest. Systems, they don't create culture, right? What does? Values. Values is what is going to create your culture. Think about that for a moment. Now, when Steve Kerr stepped into that warrior locker room, right? He knew that he had to lead like a CEO, that he couldn't just be to show up and lead like some former player just calling plays out, right? He knew that that wasn't going to get him the result that he was after. And so he built a culture grounded on four core values. And I always love learning what other companies or teams' core values are, and how they incorporate them into their team or their business. And the Warriors' core values were simple, right? It was joy, mindfulness, compassion, and the last one, healthy competition. So joy, mindfulness, compassion, and healthy competition. And those values, those weren't just like painted on the locker room wall, right? They were baked into every call, every strategy, every decision, every moment, right? Because his goal wasn't just to win games, it was to create this environment where his team could thrive, where they could evolve like grown giant men, right? Think about that. That how he put that on a pedestal. He put that as his North Star, his thing that was most important, because he knew that that was what it was going to take to build the team to get the result that he was after, which was that championship ring, right? And guess what, guys? He won an NBA championship in his first year as a head coach. How often does that happen, right? I don't think that that was a coincidence, right? What I think that was just like the most beautiful example of value-based leadership in action. That's how he got that result in his first year. And I want the same for you. So let me ask you, are you running your business like an injector, right? Like an admin? Or are you running it like a true CEO? Because you're not just an injector, you're not just a provider or just an esthetician, trying to run a little business here on the side. You are a CEO of a multi-million dollar business. Your job isn't just to do the thing. It is to lead the people, right, who do the thing. That is your job, to lead the people that do the thing. So I want to challenge you today. When your team underperforms, don't say, I'll just fix it myself, right? Ask, what would a real CEO do, right? Because here's the thing, if you have the mindset, oh, I'll just fix it, I'll own it forever, right? That's not going to get you where you want to be. But if you coach, right, then you can multiply other leaders. And I challenge my team all the time. I have great consultants, amazing consultants that can do the thing, but I challenge them daily to be a multipliers of leaders, a multiplier of leader, right? That's when you take your skills of a CEO to the next level. Because so often, A player doers, A player injectors, A player estheticians go and start their own business, and they hit the ceiling very quickly because they can only go so far as one person. And what they don't realize is that if they want to continue to grow and scale quickly and not take two steps forward and one step back, or have the whole house crumble down, or get into a situation where you wish you never even built a team, added on those additional treatment rooms, because life was so much easier and better when it was just you that you were relying on, when you didn't have all the extra responsibility and overhead and babysitting of team members. And that happens when you try to do it all yourself. That happens when you haven't adapted the CEO mindset and become a multiplier of leaders, right? Creating more of yourselves, more of the doers at a consistent and high level. Now, when you say, my team is just not motivated, right? Remember, culture is not accidental. It is 100% your responsibility as the leader. So when clients come to us and they're just like, oh, my team isn't motivated, that is a reflection of you and your leadership. I want you to remember that. I want you to take responsibility for that, right? Your team's motivation is 100% because of either your lack of or your type of leadership. And that's something that really has to be looked at, really has to be developed. Now, when you say, I just need more clients, all of my problems would go away if I just had more clients. And of course, we always want more patients, more clients, right? But maybe ask instead is, do I need more volume? Right? Or do I need a better model that's going to convert more patients, right? Or maybe retain more patients. I can't tell you how many times people come to us and they have giant databases. They have all the patients in the world that they need to be able to hit their growth and revenue goals, right? But they just think they need more new people when really they have everything that they need, but they just need a better model. Right? They need to convert more. They need to retain more. They need to have more of a luxury experience. They need to recommend better treatment plans. They need to get better in the consultation room. So think about that for a second, okay? Because I want us to stop solving these surface level problems and I want us to start asking like true CEO level questions. Right? What are those? What does that look like? Because that's much different than being a doer. When you step in fully to your role of being a CEO. And, at Diamond, we're not just here to hand you templates, hand you trackers and to-do lists and SOPs. We want to help you to be able to reframe emotion into execution, right? Because when you say, when we hear like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed, then we're going to ask you, right? Well, what does your business need from you right now? Right. And of course, this is like, we're like the therapist sometimes, asking you questions so that you can figure out the answer yourself. And that is so frustrating, right? I know that when I'm, asking my therapist, what do you think I should do, right? Asking my coach, I just want them to give me the answer. But that doesn't help me in the long term. And so we have a passion to not just give you fish, right? But to teach you how to fish so that one day, right, you can do this yourself. You can truly step into being a CEO of a multi-million dollar company. Okay. So if you're asking maybe the question, I don't know what to do right now for my business, but I just don't like what's happening. Okay. So you got to step back. You got to take a breath and ask yourself, okay, well, what would you, right, decide to do if you fully trusted yourself? If you fully believed that you couldn't fail, right? What would you decide to do? Now, this type of mindset, this type of leadership style, this way of being a CEO and running your business, right? This is what it means to lead. This is what it means to coach. This is what it means to be what I consider a diamond CEO, right? Not just like a run of the mill, average to below average CEO, but a true diamond CEO. Right. So if you don't yet have your own company values, core values, and I strongly suggest that you make that a top priority because it should be your guiding light, your North Star, and how you run your business, how you talk to your team, how you make decisions, right? Then today I'm going to lend you ours for today. Okay. But I want you to make sure that you make it a priority to do these for yourself. But think about these. Okay. So I'm going to lend you Diamond's core values. So first one, love, right? Love and how you support your team, how you support your patients, right? Confidence and how you show up for your business every single day, how you show up for your team, taking ownership, right? And how you face hard things head on. I always like have this rule of thumb, right? That you do the most difficult things. You have the difficult conversation at the beginning of the day. Don't wait. Do it first thing on your list. Growth mindedness, right? And how you stretch yourself every single day, right? To become at least 1% better every single day. Being results driven and really being willing to do whatever it takes. Right? That's being obsessed with results, being willing to do whatever it takes. Because I don't want to just help you grow revenue, because again, I'm a strong believer that systems is going to take you 2 steps forward, but you're going to take 1 step back if you don't have value-based leadership as a top priority, right? I want to help you grow a culture that people want to be a part of, right? For you to become the kind of leader people want to follow every single day. Those are the people that aren't going to leave you. Right? So that's what we do here at Diamond. We don't just change your systems. We want to help you change your identity in being a CEO. And that all starts with value-based leadership. And as we are coming to the end of the year and about ready to start 2026, a big new year, I want you to think about that and make that a top priority. Because I promise you, right, in the beginning, it's uncomfortable and maybe your team looks at you a little bit differently. But as they see you show up with consistency every single day, and using the terminology around your core values and explaining what that means and why you're asking them to do the things that you're asking them to do, and give them true purpose and helping them be a part of something that's bigger than themselves, that's where the magic happens. That's when it's so fun to go to work. That's when it's so fun to achieve personal and professional goals all together. So, if value based leadership is not something that you've thought about, that if you are, really using some self reflection, ask yourself, right? Am I really being a CEO? Do I exhibit value-based leadership? Because that could be the core of what's holding you and your team back from achieving your goals. And don't let that continue to happen. Don't let that be the reason why you don't hit your goals in 2026. All right, guys, I hope that you really, really listen to this message and understand just how serious and important